Oh, golly. Well, what if Donald shouts at me? What do I say, Lammy?
Just be yourself, Prime Minister. Yourself is who everyone likes.
Hello? Oh, sod that scary, scary, wonderful president.
I love that clip, and that is just like talk about an effective landing on a Keir Starmer impression. And the guy, I like his voice actually kind of better. It's less annoying than Keir Starmer. Oh, what do I say, Larry? Oh man, that's great stuff. So once again, my room is really hot. I got to eat some kind of ice cream. I'm good. So I can keep myself really cool because, oh boy, I'm not kidding. If you read the description for today, or if you have seen anything leading up to now, I've been referencing this one. And while I'm really anxious to get this one actually out and talked about, and even potentially get some responses here, I am not exactly looking forward to doing this because, well, two reasons. Number one, I just can't stand the guy. I don't even like listening to this fucking dude's voice. So that's part one. But the other one is that I know I'm not wrong about this exactly, but I can't help but just because I don't usually do this. I don't, and I'm not exactly 100% like warmed up to the idea because, well, let's just say, well, we don't even have to go into like any kind of anecdote. When I started the channel, and I've done episodes for a while now, even before the official, we're at what, 55 today, which is actually kind of, man, feels kind of crazy to say that, but even before, because there was a short time there where I did a big group of episodes all in quick succession, and there was about 30 to 40 episodes or so that I did, and so but I reset because I kind of reset a lot about the show at that point, so I restarted reading them and reading them. But the point is that throughout that whole time, and since I restarted, I've mostly gone after the sort of behavior of the media, the behavior of politicians, the behavior of different media figures of all different kinds, and occasionally gone after like groups of people that have been in some kind of. That's why I use the term influencer so much as like I do, because I think it's kind of a joke that term even got started to begin with. I think it's a bullshit term. I think it's absolutely stupid I think it's one of the most pathetic things in the world when you actually refer to yourself as an influencer. I think that is such a pathetic thing to do. And I'm not trying to knock on people who are, not like just kind of going along with whatever the wording is. I get that people are going to kind of not really push that a lot, and that's not to take away from the fact that people are, I won't say influential, but they do hold sway over people's ideology in a lot of ways. Like they might not be the ones doing total convincing, but there are people who are, become interested in a topic they've never heard of because they heard someone on a podcast or on a live stream talk about it, and then go and research it and become way more interested, and then they get influenced to believe in that sort of thing. So where the term, just the blanket term applying, it just makes me cringe. But But then when you go on to the broader subject of internet live streamers or podcasters or anybody who's really got a big profile online of any kind, just the idea of an influence, it's just so conceited. I just hate the idea, like I could never call myself that. And I think when people do so flippantly, it just diminishes the term. But it that's not the point. The point is that while I hate the term and I think it's a really stupid way to refer to people just because they do it. I can understand when people are kind of just like influencers, but it does lead to a sort of a big-headedness, and there is definitely a group of people that I would say are conceited enough to believe that. But the real problem, even beyond that, is there's a particular group of people who diminish their own power when they're using it for their own ends, but when they know that they're going to get some attention, they kind of hype up the fact that they have such an audience, and those people are pretty bad. But the worst are those who really have been involved for a long time, have a big fan base, and have long since become kind of desensitized to the concept of the fact that you're speaking to thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, sometimes hundreds of thousands, depending on if probably not in one stream, but people that watch the videos later. And honestly, once again, my problem isn't that these people give their opinion. It's that if there is already a growing sort of growing tension or some sort of feeling growing amongst people that something is really really there's this really big issue going on, and somebody has to do something, and especially when it comes to audiences of people that they're not exactly they convince dumbasses that they're pretty they have all the answers, but anybody who really kind of pays attention can tell a lot of these people are kind of full of shit. And there's been a lot of examples of these people. It's the problem is that like and I never am calling for censorship. I'm not going to call for censorship today. I'm just what I am blown away by is the the fact that like let's take kind of an unrelated subject and make an equivocation with it, because I think that would be a little bit easier for me to explain. So we're kind of told by all the fucking Democrats in D.C. that ICE is out there killing American citizens, and they're just rounding people up and they're sending them off to concentration camps and internment camps, and they're even deporting American citizens, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and they're killing Americans and da da da. Meanwhile, they are constantly harping on and on and on about Iran posed no real threat to us. Iranian people weren't the Iranian government wasn't this massive threat, and Donald Trump is just pushing his war effort. It's like and now you have the point where gay people are talking about how they would be more comfortable around someone, not just an Iranian, not just someone from the Middle East, not just the Islamist, but a jihadist, like literally someone shouting Allahu Akbar. They would feel more comfortable around them than someone who is a Trump supporter, and their reasoning is because they're gay. There's a clip that's been going around of this girl who's openly saying I'm a lesbian, and she gets asked by I believe it's a Caitlyn Bennett video. Who would you feel more comfortable around, a MAGA Trump supporter or a Islamist shouting Allahu Akbar? And she says, "Oh, the Islamists definitely." And she asks why. And she's like, "Well, because I'm gay." And it's like, wait, you're gay, and you would feel more comfortable around the Islamic terrorist than around a MAGA Republican? You mean, I mean, are you feeling suicidal right now? Because if you're not, I don't see how those things square. Like, there's nothing you could say otherwise that would make any sense. And so there is there's a narrative so profoundly ridiculous that people are convinced now, if they subscribe to any sort of leftist policies or ideas or ideology, that somehow a Republican president and his base, who are the um, most openly pro gay and lesbian, not necessarily trans all the way with everything, but most certainly no issues with gay and lesbian people, no issues with openly supports even gay marriage, I believe, when it comes to Donald Trump himself. Um, an administration that never like singles out gay people, maybe kids who are attempting to be transed by their unfortunately probably victimized parents by some insane freaking butcher lunatic doctor who just basically wants a lifetime guinea pig to experiment on. But like the president and this administration have never brought up anything about legislation to diminish the rights or the any kind of capabilities of gay people at all. That's never been a thing. He's as far as the Republican Party goes, he's been the most moderate on that subject, I think, in history. Um, and you have a society now where it's constantly referenced that most people, when they talk about LGBTQ, they don't really have much of a problem with the LGB part. It's the T and the Q and the this and the that, da 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 da, is where a lot of people have issues. And, that is, from what everything I've seen, that's definitely the case. Yet somehow they don't they either don't believe that, or they haven't really heard any of that, or they don't really want to hear any part of that. Similarly, they don't want to hear the part about how literally the punishments in Iran or in any country under Sharia law um, says that homosexuality is illegal. If you are found to be in any kind of homosexual relationship, you'll likely be killed. Sometimes, though, I don't know if this is a widely known fact, but it's becoming much more widely known now. There's a lot of trans clinics in Iran, believe it or not, but they're more usually, they're more often than not for someone who just really doesn't want to die, and will instead go through the procedure of having their physical appearance and body altered in order to become a transgender individual, because they don't have a problem. Then he is just a woman. So I mean, it's absolutely insane. I would bet more often than not there's not much better of a conclusion for anybody like that. But the point is that, like, how in the hell does anybody come to a conclusion that that is less dangerous than the Trump administration for any reason whatsoever? If you're gay or lesbian or bisexual or anything like that, it comes down to people who tell them otherwise, and it comes down to repetition. Now, a lot of people don't really understand how effective repetition can be as a tool for propaganda. Like, it's one of the most important aspects is to pound someone over and over again with the same message, because it becomes more palatable the more you hear it, and more commonplace it becomes. Hence, why I swear like a sailor. But um, it's just it's unbelievable that that's how far it's gone, and it's because of a lot of factors. But they've gone to accept them, and how and why? Well, we're probably going to be going over that, but it's worse than that. I don't even know exactly how to introduce this, because as I was going to say earlier in this episode, this is not what I ever really wanted to do. I didn't ever want to really focus on any one individual, or even one specific community or whatever, but definitely not one single individual, because it just seemed like, now maybe make fun of them a little bit, like here and there, but to have an episode mostly just, even, a major segment of an episode just mainly focused on one individual, I never really have wanted to do that, other than when we're talking about, like I said, politicians or media figures or whatever. That's fair game. But I even consider, like, when they're massive streamers, the only person who's gotten any kind of serious treatment like that is, of course, I think we all know who that is. It's one nephew of a very bacon grease sweating, fat and annoying liberal who is in fact a young Turk, chunky yogurt, and not even him himself, but I mean, come on, we all know who it is. It's a. Why can't I see this? No, yeah, that's right. The guy, his nephew. Uh, That's right. That's right. Hassan. Hassan. By the way, I'm not even gonna get. I have no interest in getting into this. It's so stupid. But the planned trip that they went on to Cuba recently, he joined the little gremlin Greta and her merry band of morons, and decided that they're gonna make Cuba a better place by staying in this super fancy hotel with tons of, you know, electricity and backup generators to make sure they're well taken care of. And there's somebody actually went out at night and filmed the rest of the area. It's pitch black. There's no electricity. There's no power. There's definitely no internet. And yet, Hassan, he's in this hotel. He's got to be doing his live stream. You got to let people know, let everybody know the business. What's going down here in Cuba? It's so pathetic, but that's not, that's about the extent I'll go into with someone like that, because he's just a joke. The guy's a complete freaking joke. Everything he says is just like, it's so like, it was like, I always reference this, but he's at a table with a group of, once again, gay people sitting around at this table. He gets asked what his favorite flag is, and he says the Hezbollah flag, and you can see them all get really uncomfortable. And he's like, "Oh, it's so cool. There's a hand holding it up at the AK-47, and you hear somebody at the table, Hassan." Like, they just don't want it. Like, what are you doing, dude? Come on. But hey, you invited him. Best of luck. You figure it out. But now that's where I mostly kind of call it quits. And there's a handful of people I think are really stupid and annoying like that, but I don't want to, really just go in too hard. Mostly because it's just unnecessary drama. And I didn't set out to be a drama streamer. I usually am not exactly uh, the most definitely not the biggest fan of the genre. I have no problem with people that do it. I mean, like, I have a huge amount of respect for Keemstar, even though he's kind of a dick sometimes, and even though he's definitely somebody who I don't like see as somebody who's most certainly not infallible. I would say he's definitely a guy that also seems to be pretty damn genuine in the things he believes in, and he's actually way more open to discussion than he comes off in a lot of cases. So. Um, He's cocky as hell, of course, but I mean, he's even upfront about that. So, um, but I mean, I actually have seen him take up causes that are pretty damn good, and I think despite his exterior, he's a pretty decent dude. So I mean, I don't have a problem with the guy, but eh, it's not a rip on him. He just likes covering drama. There's a lot of, I mean, there's countless channels that cover that kind of shit. And if you're coming here for that, obviously you're not going to get that. But in this one instance, we're kind of going there because I can't help it, because this is just, you'll understand when we get to the real meat of what we're talking about. But when I first say the person, I'm hesitating. When I first get this part off my chest, I think that you'll get the idea. Um, so I think I have a video clip I'll just play instead, just to kind of be a better way to introduce this segment than anything I could just say. That would be. In fact, I cut this. This was the original intro for this episode when I was gonna do it the first time last week. Which, by the way, that's another thing too. I normally don't sit on subjects that are getting kind of older and still want to go back and do them even after it's been such a significant amount of time between when I tried and when it's actually been successful. But once again, due to the fact that this is something that is really, really, really deeply concerning now to me. Oh, I'm not in the right folder. That's why. Um, I really feel like I have to do this one because I mean, there's just, yeah, it's just too serious at this point. It's too serious, and it's too real, and it's just too much of a danger. Um, and it's, bear in mind, I'm not even talking about any kind of free speech issue. I'm talking about what their their I mean, these are things that would be illegal if anybody was paying attention to this shit. And I'm dead serious too, because it seems like maybe not quite, maybe not quite illegal, but they're straddling that fucking line. I mean, they're right on it. If this isn't illegal, they're playing on it. They're dancing on the line so freaking irresponsibly that you know you're damn freaking close, and that's saying something, because when it comes to free speech, if it's not call to action, a call to action for some sort of illegal action, violent action, or something, um, it pretty much falls under the free speech category. That's how bad it is. Like, that's what we're talking about here when it comes to what is being, and I'm serious, being advocated for. So, um, let me go back. I think I'm in the wrong. Ah, that's right. Here we go. Oh, no. It's this one. Yep, here we go. All right. So, yeah, there is a. Yep, I think this is it. That's right. Yeah. But this is part of a bigger clip, but actually part of two bigger clips. But here, let's get it out of the way. So, yeah, there is. This is basically who we're going to be focusing on for most of the episode today, because Um, well, I'll introduce you to him, his community, his mods, or at least a couple of his mods, and we'll take a good look at these and see what exactly is going on here. So, without further ado, and brace yourselves because this gets pretty insane pretty quick. So here we go. Let's just jump into this. All right, here we go. And be prepared.
You said, let me clarify. When I say conflicted, what I mean is I lean towards seeing it as a natural extension of the thing Trump and the MAGA kids support. So I don't think I have much sympathy about the attempt enough to chastise people celebrating it. You couldn't find it in your heart to chastise people for celebrating the near assassination of a man who was president of the United States and maybe again?
Absolutely not. Conservatives have completely bled that well dry. And the idea that they, after engaging in the most divisive and most extreme rhetoric that this country has seen in recent history, that they would come on and beg for sympathy, that it's escalated into some kind of violent confrontation is absolutely insane.
Hello, Destiny.
I love that Andrew Wilson clip. And because I've never seen him look so immediately nervous, like right in the face of somebody. He could deny it all he wants, but you can tell by his little fake grin there that he gives that he knows business is just picked up. And we'll be watching that. Don't worry, we'll get into that. But Andrew's just like licking his lips, like, all right, I'm gonna make sure I savor this meal very well, and he did. He absolutely did. But he's just he's just one guy, and this is this is one of the most strange individuals who is still part of the online content creation community, and he's devolved based on both horrible life decisions and for some reason getting incredibly devoted to an ideology of a political party that is so deeply and totally consumed with obsession over one guy and blaming this one guy for everything that is wrong with not just their party but the country itself, that he has nothing to offer except for well, until Trump does this and this and this, Democrats shouldn't do anything to make the situation. It is so. I mean, just right there, I've heard him say that or something akin to that so many times at this point that I'm just stunned that is still somehow a defense that anybody can look at and go, well, you have a point. That no, you don't. How in the fuck is that a point? Let's just over this. First of all, if that were true, you're saying that nothing that we do, we could resort to blowing up buildings if we wanted to, and it's still going to be Trump's fault because he turned up the temperature, and he just keeps referring to that. Turned up the temperature. Conservatives have turned up the temperature. Okay, regardless of how much they turned up the temperature, that doesn't give you legal, moral, or ethical permission, and it sure as fuck doesn't even any kind of score or do anything for your public image. It doesn't help anyone with anything, and it really only hurts people that had nothing to do with any of this. Like, how the fuck besides which, how the fuck is he turning up the temperature? The thing he always goes back to is January 6th, January 6th, January 6th. Everybody always goes back to January 6th. And I'm like, okay, so we're talking about something that happened 6 years ago now, or not quite. Is that like about 5.5 years ago? And yet that's still so bad that it justifies any kind of violent rhetoric, any kind of violent stance, or the fact that you can't feel sympathy towards victims of assassination attempts, whether they're successful or not. Either way, in both cases, you refuse to condemn it because, once again, the temperature was turned up by Trump. And then the second part is how? What the fuck? What other than, once again, then peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard, and we're gonna fight like hell, which I've heard. You know, how many politicians on both sides say that during their campaign? But this one guy saying, "Oh, it means something totally different. Now it means real physical violence. Only in this case. In this case, it means real physical violence. Every other time, that's just rhetoric, and we'll just defend that. That's free speech. How dare you go after free speech?" But like this whole turning up the temperature thing, how? And if that is true, which I don't agree with, but if that is true, if you're going by that as a metric, how the fuck is a guy going through dementia and rapidly declining mentally, who has handed over his entire immigration policy to a guy who openly advocates for open borders, openly happy and excited at the thought of a white minority population, like that is some sort of super important benchmark to make, and is super, like, some sign of reaching some kind of ridiculous, insane goal. Handed over the keys to the freaking whole immigration system to that guy, and a guy who just wanted to hurry kids along because it was, quote, just like Henry Ford's assembly line to rush these kids through the CBP stations and get them into the country as fast as possible. And so that guy and those two guys, they weren't turning the temperature up. That wasn't turning the temperature up. It's Trump turning the temperature up. Trump's the only one. Trump's the only one turning up the temperature to a degree that is able to be held morally responsible, or at this point in time is responsible for everything that's going on. Only him, nobody else. I guess maybe some other Republicans, like there's other Republicans, and of course ones that support Trump, but anybody else that's opposed, even Republicans opposed to the president, they're fine too. They didn't do anything to turn up the temperature, like, rag on Trump and keep bringing up how he's destabilizing this area and that area, and then, of course, it's the Jews' fault, and it's Israel's fault, and it's everybody else's fault. But Trump's really the one who's masterminding all that with his temperature turning up and all this other crap. It's just like that excuse is so flimsy. It's so pathetic. It's so stupid that I can't believe he still leans on it. I can't believe people still entertain it. Like that could even be realistically considered to be actually a possibility for anything. Like, no. Let me just run down a couple of events or a few examples of things that have gone on, and we'll kind of gauge, an idea of how the temperature is doing. Like, let's do a temperature check here. We'll be weatherman, except much more accurate, because we're talking about past, not future. So, once again, and by the way, here's another fun fact. Lunatic with a gun goes and kills a guy in his attempt to kill Donald Trump. A guy who was trying to protect his family by jumping on top of them, and he did save their lives, but he took a bullet and died for them. He's a firefighter, and he shares my name, first name, last name is Compatore, and the guy who was doing the shooting was apparently killed. Now, well, we know he was killed. We basically see the spot where he was and the blood that's pooled up everywhere. And I've seen footage with his body blurred out, but everything else pretty much still still in sight, and the crime scene untouched. So once again, that wasn't because the temperature was turned up by anyone on the left. That was all Trump once again. Trump turned the temperature up so bad he made himself a target. Okay, all right, and then when that is used, that very speech right there is in reference to the fact that he can't not only can he not bring himself to condemn the shooting that ended up with someone getting killed, but he specifically says, if you're there and you're a friend of mine, and not a friend, a fan of mine, which don't even get me started, but because believe me, we're going there too. But you're a fan of mine, you're at one of these rallies and you get killed, I'm going to be laughing the next day. Like, that's definitely true. Like, wow, okay, that's pretty blunt. And quite frankly, it's pretty goddamn disgusting. How in the hell do you rationalize that? Because Trump and Republicans have been turning up the temperature. How is him at a rally talking about illegal immigration turning up the temperature? Because you're so desperate to protect your precious illegals? Is that why? Because if that's the case, once again, I think that has more to do with the problem on your side and not necessarily Donald Trump's, promotion of, I don't know, enforcing the fucking law. But if that's not enough, then we have another just wonderful clip, and I think I have that one too. As a matter of fact, I'm sorry, but this is what I mean. This is why I was conflicted about this, but we got to do it because this guy's guy's evil. I don't know how else to say it. This guy is really literally evil. And I am. So this culminates somewhere far more serious than this. So don't worry. This isn't just about the same old talking points. You may have seen some of this, but I have to go into it in its entirety because I just want everybody to get the full picture. This is all just to get the full picture of everything leading up to now, and then now how much it's just completely gone next level, because it has gone from just these disgusting things to something I think is legitimately dangerous. So let's just hear, where is this one? Yeah, this one. So that was, of course, the response after Butler. Let's hear the response after Charlie Kirk's murder and what he had to say about that immediately afterwards, including with Jack Posobiec on the same panel, which Jack he has the patience of a saint, and I swear you can tell he's really uncomfortable in this, but I have nothing but respect for the guy for sitting there and listening to this horse shit, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. There's no way. No way. Not if my friend had just been one of my best friends had just been murdered and the whole world was watching it, and there's a bunch of people in one cesspit of the internet that were all dancing and cheering and clapping and having a grand old time laughing about it. And even I didn't even talk about this before, but the whole TMZ thing where there was, as soon as they announced that he was dead on the I can't remember if it was Fox or if it was another news station. I think it was Fox. So there was Harvey was giving some sort of report about something, and when that news goes live in the newsroom, you hear a bunch of people cheering and clapping, and it's like, oh yeah, there's another group of people who are sick as hell and are super excited that they just murdered someone for talking on a college campus. Wow. But anyway, here's another time where he and by he I mean Destiny, decides I'm gonna go on. Which, by the way, I'm really become really kind of not too big of a fan of the Piers Morgan show. Piers Morgan Uncensored, where he actually is pretty censored, considering that I'm so tired of hearing on a show called Uncensored them use the F slur so often. It's like, listen, faggot, you got a bit no, but seriously, it's like he says you can say whatever you want. I guarantee you can't. There's the N word, the F slur. There's a lot of words that are pretty censored, I would say. Anyway, but never mind that. Here's a little scumbag himself, and anyway, just and the funniest part about this is, look who's here in this video, and her reaction to the things that Destiny has to say. I mean, even she's freaking uncomfortable with it, and I don't blame her. But once again, the side that she's a part of, and it would be nice if it was recognized that it's guys had a long time to let this stuff sit around and fester, and kept denying that there was a problem here. And now if you want to say, I'm not gonna hold it against anybody if they do recognize that. I do appreciate that whenever somebody actually is able to shake off this fucking spell and go, yeah, this is going way too far. But in the case with stuff like this, it's just been there's so much weird grandstanding in certain areas, and then at the same time trying to act like you're super humble and understanding, accepting. And it's like, that's true unless, and then there's a few categories where that's just not the case. And so anyway, that's beside the point, though. So let's see what happened here. That you got everybody, especially Jack, so upset. And afterwards, there's one part that's really disgusting. It's not in the clip, but I'll mention it afterwards. So let's check this out.
Destiny joins us now. Destiny, you've been quite active on social media since Charlie Kirk's death. When Erica Kirk posted Charlie's coffin, you responded, she tagged him, brackets, crying face emojis. In response to Alina Haber's tweet ordering people to fly their flags at half-mast in memory of Charlie, you posted on X, buying flags and poles just to fly them fully erect. And you then posted yesterday, ending every Conservative debate call out I'd do in 2026 with "Don't dodge, bro." That's not what Charlie would have wanted. I mean, do you think that your response to the cold-blooded murder of Charlie Kirk has been appropriate?
Yeah.
What do you think his answer? Well, you kind of heard, but what do you think his reasoning is going to be? Just take a wild guess. What do you think it's going to be?
Yes. I think that the only way this country moves forward into a better world is when conservatives can finally realize that they need to turn the temperature down on their side. We are 10 years into whatever this Trump madness is, and there is not a single mainstream conservative that will call for a lowering of the temperature on their side. I think that liberals need to wake up and finally realize that if they're not willing to do it, it will never come down. If you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, Donald Trump shouldn't have been president for the second term. Every time he's in office, this happens. People joked about when Biden came in, it was so boring, nothing was going on. 7 out of 10 of the largest protests in American history have happened under Donald Trump. All of the recent political violence that's happened in this country over the past 20 years, the majority of it, the overwhelming majority of it, everybody gets mad because they keep asking Grok about it, has been conservative.
Who shot Charlie Kirk?
A guy from Utah who was raised in a Christian family, who was a 22-year-old white dude.
Described.
He wasn't trans. He didn't have a trans girlfriend. He didn't have any trans influences. He didn't have any trans bullets. Yeah, I'm sorry. You guys were wrong on all of that.
To be clear, the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, has made it clear that their investigation has now established that he had been radicalized by a leftist ideology, which drove him to do this. That's just
I'm sorry. Excuse me. When?
Yesterday, he said that.
No. When was he radicalized? In the 6 months that he did remote college?
I don't know when he was radicalized, but I do know.
What you just said
I do know the very reasonable-sounding governor of Utah has made it clear that the you may not want to hear this.
Ongoing investigation.
You may not want to hear it, Destiny. But the reality is, the investigators, according to the governor of Utah, have established that he was radicalized to a leftist ideology that drove him to murder Charlie Kirk. Now, let me just ask you.
That's just not true.
Let me just
There's
ask
no
you.
way to deal with it.
Okay,
You're living in a
accusing the
delusional
governor of
fantasy.
lying.
Yeah.
That's your prerogative. But
Sure.
if it turns out to have been somebody with a leftist ideology who wanted to shut up Charlie Kirk,
Boy, here we
would
go.
you condemn that?
I won't condemn anything until the president of the United States can go on air and say, all of us need to calm down.
So
The
you
fact
won't
that he
condemn
can
the
go on
murder of
Fox and
Charlie
Friends-
Kirk until Donald Trump says
Here's-
something.
I'm a
Look at Andrew
YouTuber.
Wilson.
Leftists and Democrats
And
have
here-
been condemning and turning down the temperature, condemning violence, turning
And here it is. Here's the passing the buck and denying your own sort of like, like, I'm a YouTuber. I'm just a YouTuber. And then the other half, he'll use that same sort of clout to kind of basically make the not direct assertion, but implicitly sort of suggest that I've been watching this stuff for years. I've been seeing all this stuff happen for years. This is just ridiculous. Of course, so he'll leverage the fact when he needs to leverage it, but he'll downplay it when he needs to, pretend like it's like, because like it or not, like, sorry, there's a demographic of people, and unfortunately, I hate this more than anybody, but yeah, probably a younger group of people who are part of a radical ideology, which is gradually becoming a very rapidly growing one. They probably would believe anything and be listening to anything that you have to say over the president of the United States if it is Donald Trump or it is a conservative. Absolutely, yes. I don't think that's good. I don't like that. I don't know if that would have the same impact around the world or with a bigger group of people, but to suggest that means you have no ability whatsoever to control in any way the because we're talking about a level of anger and a level of willingness to resort to something like a fucking assassination in cold blood in the middle of a rally where people are asking questions on an open mic to a guy in a tent who is there to have debates, and a guy that was too much for him, and he decided to blow the guy's neck out with a rifle that was his grandfather's, and instead of saying that that has anything to do with the cries of racism, Hitler, Nazi, fascist, authoritarian, you name it, it's been said. And to claim that it's not because of anything that's going on this side, it's not because we've called this guy everything under the sun. We've called everyone in his administration just about all those things, to the point that we literally sent members of his fucking cabinet to fucking prison for years. Like, what are we talking about? The hell is it? You think that like this group of people who are absolutely power mad, including you, are not in any way still clinging on to whatever little fucking power you have to use it to sway public opinion anytime there's something. We'll be talking about this more in detail later, but look at the rhetoric. Look at the rhetoric for Renee Good and Alex Preddy, who were killed like over, at least in Renee Good's case, over 2 months ago. And now people, once again, the last couple of days, someone was shot by an illegal in San Diego, and it was a woman who was completely innocent, just out for a walk. And it took days for the mayor and the governor of the state to even acknowledge it happened. They wouldn't apologize. They wouldn't say their policies had anything to do with it, despite they let out this guy, of course, over and over again, despite the fact that ICE knew who he was and probably put a detainer out for him, which they didn't honor, and they let him out of the jail before ICE could get there, because I'm sure it was not a violent offense, right? So they just wait until there is a violent offense, like someone getting murdered, and then they pass the buck, and then they say, well, this is really who Trump should be going after. Well, he would have gone after that person if you fucking let him. And this is the problem. This is where everything stems from. They shouldn't be going after people who just are simply shoplifting, people who are not really even committing crimes. And then they just use the wordplay. Like, well, they haven't committed any serious crime. Serious crime. Remember what I talked about last episode? Maybe not, it's been a while ago, so maybe I'll just reiterate it really quickly. Violent crimes don't include the following. Let me see, let me remember this. Resisting arrest, evading or obstructing justice, attacking attacking a police officer is in the name once again, as well as domestic abuse. Both of those don't fall under violent crime. Drunk driving, and what's some of the the most egregious by far, possession or distribution of CSAM material. So those are just some of the worst, but so someone gets busted because they have a bunch of underage kids in some very, very inappropriate acts, or worse, actual child pornography on their devices. Well, that's not a violent crime. They get arrested. Once again, if it's not a violent crime, if ICE puts a detainer out, the governors and mayors of these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, and I'm not fucking kidding about this, I'm dead serious, they don't consider that violent threats or violent crime, and they end up, if ICE, now, I'm not saying ICE puts a detainer out on every one of these. I'm not saying that that's the case. And I'm definitely not saying not every state will honor the detainers, because there are tons of states that actually do honor the detainers. And in those states, you know what? Crime has drastically gone down. Imagine that. Imagine that. Meanwhile, the blue states are touting how much less crime they have, and how much it's more due to people who are here legally than people who are here illegally. Well, first of all, considering the fact that's bullshit, because you're guaranteed to at least have committed one crime when you cross the fucking border illegally. But secondly, even if you're not even if you exclude that, no, that's still not true. And even if it there's some truth to it, it's very negligible, considering the fact that as we've just discussed, these sanctuary cities have the most lenient policies. Most of them are no cash bail states. Also, they have that wonderful thing in place, and they just don't report the crime. They just don't report the crime. So, is the picture starting to come into focus a little bit about how sick this game is? Like, let's blame Trump for all this stuff because he's going after people who haven't even committed crimes. They haven't done anything wrong except for being here illegally because they're desperate, fleeing for their lives. And it's like, yeah, some of them were, basically kicked out of their country because the country they live in can't pay to house as many people who are in their jails as they have, and or they're just crazy, or they're just too violent. They don't know what to do with them. They're like, just get out of here, go to America, do whatever. And I'm like, Trump talked about this a lot on the campaign trail. There's people that are literally, not wanted in their home country, and so they come here. And under the last administration, they could just say the word asylum as they were coming through, unless there was, there's some kind of record they had, or there's some knowledge of the country on who we were talking about here, and what they had done, and what they potentially were prepared to do because of the fact that they were already responsible for some heinous shit. Hold on, let me close this. There we go. So, never mind the fact that it's all bullshit. We have no way to confirm what these people did in a lot of cases in their home countries. But even excluding all of that, no, that's not the case. You're just deciding that we just won't, if it's something that we're going to let out, if it's a crime that's so minor, we're just going to let them out anyway. And we don't want ICE to go after this person because really they didn't do something really that bad. And you take into consideration everything I just said, then you sit around wondering, well, how is there so much crime in these things? Because people get more and more bold as they get away with more and more crime. Some of these people have rap sheets like 24 arrests long. Like they have been caught over and over and over again. And because I'll just say it, because they're a valuable voting bloc for the left, oh, no, we gotta get rid of this guy. The only circumstance is if they're like somebody who's committed like aggravated assault, rape, murder, like like imprisonment and torture or something. Like we're talking about, like the criminally insane here. Then they'll go through with the whole sentencing, and then if they're in jail or in prisons as opposed to jails, well, yeah, they'll get rid of those guys. But anybody who is illegal and in the country and commits a crime that is something they don't immediately put you in prison for, because they're worried that you're going to do it, which is why so many of these people have so long rap sheets, and then they get to the point where they finally end up doing something absolutely horrific. And how could this happen? That's how it happens. That's exactly how it happens. And according to people like this piece of shit, it's because Trump's turning the rhetoric up. So anyway, I just had to clear that up because once again, you're not going to ever hear, any kind of honesty. Which, by the way, like, how many times do people on the right say, well, Trump may have gone too far? Well, Trump actually did probably make a mistake on this. But, like, Republicans are completely, probably to an extent, overly self-critical. And some of them are pretty fucking lazy, too, when it comes to even extremely important and principled positions. But Democrats? No, they just will justify everything. So, like, as long as it means potentially more dedicated voters, and hey, if they let you in the country and they know that they let you in the country, and you want maybe more people that you know and you're related to, and maybe they're your homeboy, maybe it's who you started out your drug dealing business with. You want them in the country too, then you're going to vote Democrat. You're going to want to make sure those people can come back. You're definitely not going to want Trump or whoever follows him in that party to be in control of anything that could destabilize your main source of income and your power that you currently have. And so just blame Trump. Of course, just blame Trump. That's the easy thing to do. So I'm sorry I went on way too long, but the point is that, like, this guy is just, it's amazing. It's amazing the levels of deception here, and the fact that no one even, like, except for, of course, people that are there to actually push back because they are sickened by the fact that this walking piece of garbage actually can sit there with a straight face and talk about, because he knows what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. This is another reason why I'm spotlighting this piece of shit, because he knows exactly what he's doing, and he either doesn't care or, more likely, he's happy about it because it's going to get him attention. And especially since he got divorced, which, believe me, I'm going to take my jabs at him, but ever since he's been divorced, he just seems like he's gotten more and more unhinged, and just gotten to the point where he's really needing that unhinged sort of character that he lets out to just be a complete and total fucking piece of garbage to fuel him to get on and provoke a response out of any conservative, and particularly when they're emotional. So he loves the fact that Jack Posobiec is there. He can do it to somebody who is friends with Charlie, so he can really get him angry. And he does at one point, but luckily Jack is smart enough that he just says, shut up, Destiny, and we'll get to that in a second. I don't actually have a part on here, but I'll explain it in just a second. Let's get the shit show going again, and then we'll talk about that.
In the temperature for a decade. Donald Trump can't go on TV and say, all of us need to calm down.
Right.
Can you tell me why he cannot?
Why
tell
would you
his
expect
side to calm
anybody,
down?
Destiny?
You
What-
can't answer that. Can you answer
Here's
that question?
actually
Why
made a
can't
pretty
Trump
good point
answer
right
this
there.
question?
all of us should be less violent?
Why do you
can't
think?
Trump say that?
Why do you
Why is
think?
your
Trump say that?
behavior
I feel like
contingent
I'm
on Donald
fucking
Trump?
insane right now.
Why do you
is
think?
your
Anna's saying
Let me ask
something
a
pretty
contingent on Donald
freaking.
Trump?
Let me
Why
ask
is
a
that?
question.
Because he's the president of the United States of America and the leader of the
Yeah,
opposing
Destiny.
political party.
Destiny. Let me
You
just.
have a huge audience of young men who
I'm a
listen to
YouTuber.
everything you
Who's
have
the
to say.
Oh.
So
young
when
men
you,
following
it
him?
doesn't matter.
Who
You
has
have a
more
huge
young men?
audience,
Matter?
and because
This
of
is
the fact that
world
you have a
I'm
huge
living in,
audience,
and
you
your
have
brain
a
has been
responsibility
broken by
to
online
not turn.
rhetoric.
No,
And
it
your
hasn't.
brain
It
has
hasn't
been
been broken.
destroyed
I actually care
because
about the
people
country
bully you on
and want to bring
Twitter.
people together.
If
You do the
should tell
opposite.
Donald
You
Trump to tell
represent the
people
worst
to
of us,
be
Destiny.
less
You're
violent.
embarrassing.
You should tell
You're
Donald.
embarrassing.
All right, let me ask
Watch how
Destiny
easy
a
this is.
question.
Watch how easy this
No,
is.
hang on.
If
Don't
Donald Trump
shut
would've
at
come out
once,
and say-
please.
If Donald Trump would have come out
Destiny,
and say, "Hey, we should all be less violent,"
Destiny,
I have no problem saying.
I have one
absolutely.
question for you,
Why
Destiny.
can't conservatives do that? Why can't
Destiny.
conservatives do that?
Destiny, I have a question for you. Why do you think, in your campaign for everyone to dial down the temperature, why do you think that mocking the grieving widow of Charlie Kirk when she posts an image of her at the coffin side, why do you think that constitutes turning down the temperature?
You can't turn down the temperature on your own. The president of the United
You
States
inflame
is
the
not
temperature.
able
You're
to-
mocking
no,
his
it's already
widow.
inflamed.
You're
What are you
mocking his
talking
widow.
about? We've had multiple political assassinations over the past year. What do you mean it's turning up the temperature?
Why did you
to
mock
fight
his
somebody
widow?
Online
Ever.
because
Why
she's
did you
being
mock his
wielded
widow?
as because she's being used as a political weapon right now
Wow.
for conservatives to continue their fight. What do you mean? Wow, she's literally doing
Her husband
recruitment
just got
ads
murdered.
on email. Yeah, and she's using it to drive up recruitment for
And
a
you
political
can't even
movement.
condemn the murder. You won't
The
condemn
president
it.
can't even tell his side
You're
to
so
turn the temperature
deranged
down.
about Trump
are-
that you
are
cannot condemn the
unhinged.
murder
It is such a
because you're
joke,
waiting
and
for
you guys
Donald
sit here
Trump
and
to say
make money
something.
off of it. It's
All right, let me bring in.
Oh,
Let me bring
they
in
make
Jack.
money.
Let me bring in.
They
Let me bring in
make
Jack
money.
Posobiec. I gotta
And there will
say,
be there's still no answer to that question, Piers. You can't say
Which question?
Why can't Donald Trump simply go on TV and say we all need to turn it down,
Fine.
like Biden could, like Obama could,
Fine.
like the Clintons could, like Kamala could.
Biden
Why not?
Obama could.
why can't you
That
condemn
did
the
so much
murder of
good
Charlie
during
Kirk?
the-
Unbelievable. I'm not the president
Why
of the United
can't
States.
you
can't answer that
condemn
question.
the
It's
murder of Charlie
unbelievable.
Kirk?
Unbelievable to me.
Why can't you condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk?
Because it wasn't my side that caused it. It
Oh.
should be
Yes,
the
it
one that
was.
is driving up
It
the
actually
rhetoric. You
was
don't
your
know
side
it's
that
not even
caused
true.
it.
This
It was
an
your
18
side.
This guy was raised in a white
He
Christian
was a
household,
radicalized
in a Christian
leftist
state.
ideology.
He wasn't radicalized by leftism at all. You have no proof of that whatsoever.
That's what
Just
the
like
investigators are
Melissa
saying.
Was a conservative, just like the people that firebombed Shapiro's house was a conservative, just like all the J6ers were
He was not a
conservatives, just like the Proud
conservative, he was
Boys
a
were conservatives.
pro-Palestinian activist
Every
out of
single one of
Harrisburg.
these, every single one of these people.
Jack
Oh,
was
it's
right
Jack
about that.
Posobiec, what the author of Unhuman, another person that Charlie supported. Good one, dude.
Well, I'll give you one last chance, Destiny, to condemn the murder of
Wow.
Charlie
Yes, you are
Kirk.
acting like a
Why,
non-human.
why can't I hear
Yeah.
Donald Trump
Because you were against
condemn
humanity.
violence
So,
in this
all
country?
right, you
Why
won't
can't I
condemn
hear
it. Okay, we've
I
all
can't hear it.
heard.
That's insane
We've
to
all
me.
heard you repeatedly refuse to
And we've
condemn it.
heard Donald Trump refuse to condemn
Jack
it too. But for some
Posobiec.
reason, the leftists on YouTube are a bigger deal. Unbelievable.
Yeah, what's incredible is you don't have the basic humanity to condemn it. You'd rather taunt his widow.
Good point. He just rattles on forever and ever and ever. And the point that I really applaud Jack on was when he had enough, because he's trying to point out that I've mentioned this before. He's trying to point out that this guy. First of all, by the way, I don't know too many conservatives. Call me crazy. I don't know too many conservatives who are in a relationship with a guy who's transitioning and also happens to be a fucking fur fag. Which, by the way, I don't care if you're transitioning. You'd have to be a leftist, of course, to believe that makes it a straight relationship. When a guy is dating another guy that is going through transition. Usually, who knows? Maybe he's becoming non-binary. Who knows? But either way, there was, for all Destiny's bullshit. His family, his brothers, admitted he had been He had changed a lot, especially in the last few months. He had become far more hard left. He was influenced a lot more by leftist rhetoric. He was talking all about the hate on the right. He was talking about how there's too many people on the right that are way too hateful and are too harmful to people around them, and then he would bring this new girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is, friend over to visit with his family, and it was uncomfortable for them to see this guy, who they had who was a member of their family, and all of a sudden now is in this relationship with this really weird guy who's a furry and has this is going through this transition where he's, take your average looking transgender person on in the media or social media or anywhere like that, and then magnify that by something like the slob who's too fat and too tired to get out of their apartment very often. That's likely what we're dealing with. I have no idea who the guy is, but I'll say this: the text messages they had back and forth after the whole shooting, that was way too staged to just be some kind of confession. And the questions that were being asked and answered, the answers were so fucking canned and so fucking, it just came off as so phony, and it seemed like it was more of a way to make sure. I can't prove this, but it looked like more of a way to try to pretend and act like this guy had nothing to do with it, because he didn't have any idea that he was going to do this. When I mean, we're talking about the guy who is probably more responsible than anything for, maybe he was getting sympathetic to the views, but I guarantee you this guy he was with was the one that was really getting him super sympathetic to leftist ideology. I almost guarantee that part's true. But ultimately, it comes down to this incident here. Jack's talking about how the bullets were engraved. Some other leftist lunatic did that with their bullets when they did some sort of mass shooting. Which, by the way, for all the crap that the left tries to throw around all the time, like most mass shootings are committed by white men, and I think one reason they're able to say that is because since they can't define a woman, and now we've been noticing this trend rising where there's a ton of mass shooters who are actually women, but they're transitioning to men. And that does make a lot of sense because they're getting pumped full of a shit ton of hormones. Hey, what's up, MLA? How's it going, man? I didn't see you were there. Good to see you. Sorry, I should have said hello a while ago. I don't know when you popped in, but good to see you, man. And sorry for just warning. Sorry for the kind of impassioned topic today, but we'll get to the reason why in just a little bit here. I know I keep teasing it, but it really is important we get the full picture here, because trust me, this was something that really shook me too. So, but back to what I was saying. There was another shooter who engraved his bullets, engraved the bullets that were used for the shooting. So this piece of shit decided he was going to do the same. He put all these stupid furry and gay and leftists, and there was the song for Antifa, the lyrics for that, Ciao Bella Ciao, or whatever the fuck the stupid song's called. That was engraved on one, and there was another one that was in reference to furry culture with the notices bulge thing, that whole stupid crap. Once again, yiff in hell. But Jack's talking about this, and one of the bullets was engraved with "Hey fascist, catch," and obviously meant to be a burn at someone getting shot that they're shooting at him. So the bullet that was actually used and the cartridge that was ejected was the one that had the stupid furry notices bulge thing. So when Jack says that the bullet was fired had "Hey fascist catch" engraved on the bullet, Destiny starts laughing hysterically, saying that wasn't even the bullet that was used. That's not even the bullet that was used. I'm sitting there going, wow, that's your big gotcha, huh? That's the big ammunition you got against Jack for how he's referencing what this lunatic leftist furry fucking lunatic moron who's been watching way too much YouTube with people like you, Destiny, uh, to actually fucking, maintain any semblance of humanity. And so I guess when you're like this, you'll laugh because they didn't know exactly which bullet was the one engraved that killed his fucking friend. But Destiny seems to find that hilarious, and he'll just go on and on about it and basically use it as if it's some sort of way to discredit Jack by saying that that wasn't the bullet that was used. Sorry, I can't remember what every bullet that the lunatic furry fucking leftist scumbag used to kill one of my best friends, but I'm still a little shocked and shaken by this whole thing. So sorry I didn't get the exact bullet right, but I guess I'd ask, does it even fucking matter? He engraved a bunch of bullets with this stuff and used one of them to kill my friend. How about we just focus on that part instead of the fact that this bullet was the one that was used and not that one? Because it could have been really any one of them that he used to shoot him, and it wouldn't have mattered. It would have had the same fucking effect. So there you go. There you go. But anyway, so no, at the same time, denying his own party's absolute unwillingness to say anything condemning violence. He talks about how many violent riots there's been. Like that's some sort of referendum on Trump. I mean, that's a referendum on leftists. I mean, first it was Black Lives Matter, then it was defund the police, then it was 15 days to slow the spread, and then there was like, oh, if you're not really an American, if you don't lock yourself indoors, wear a mask all the time, and go only go out like once a week to and remote learning. It's like all the fucking stupid shit that we did during COVID, and I'm not going to rehash all that, but it's just amazing. Oh, and of course there was the Stop Asian Hate, which is one of my particular favorites, because as they were trying to find footage of anybody who was white that was doing anything violent to the Asian people in New York in particular, because that was where most of the violence was centered, a lot of footage came out, and I mean a lot. Now, this isn't saying anything about a group of people. This just so happens to be who was caught in the footage. Seemed to be a lot of black people. And they were ruthless about this. They would sucker punch people, sneak up behind them. There's videos where I saw this one there's like a woman walking into a glass door, and then there's another glass door right inside that where she's going into like her apartment building, and it's like the entrance where I think the mailboxes are and everything. As soon as she enters that first glass box where you go in, this black guy sneaks up behind her, sucker punches her super hard in the back of the head, and then she just drops. And he's not done. He wants to kick her, stomp her, and then he's done. He walks away. There's another one where, I mean, it was brutal. There was this one where it was a Asian lady again, and she looked a little bit older, and she was beat up, got knocked down. She was on a train platform, and as soon as he had beaten her up and kicked the shit out of her on the ground, he decides, I'm just going to throw her down the stairs. So he grabs her by the leg and arm, and just starts chucking her down the stairs, but then she stops on the landing. That's not enough. He has to go down to the landing, throw her the rest of the way down, and then I guess he's satisfied. But the worst one, of course, was a guy that had once again another guy, black guy that came up behind this elderly Asian guy and slammed his head against the garage door so hard he died. And they didn't want to talk about any of those. So they wanted to talk about Stop Asian Hate. The best they could come up with was a group of people who were all white in a truck that were shouting at someone who was Asian, and they didn't really make out exactly what they said, but they were basically guessing that, oh, they're shouting a bunch of racist slurs. And it's like, okay. The video where it seems like there's a group of white people saying racist slurs against an Asian guy or girl or couple or whatever, yeah, it's pretty bad. What about all the acts of violence, though, where you have a line that goes multiple blocks in New York where Asian people are trying to get, like, I think it was mace or a stun gun or something, like just something to protect themselves with. And that line was going like, the line was so long the cameraman like stopped filming before he got to the end of it. It was insane. But that was the threat level to people from any, and this was during COVID, and a bunch of people had come out and they blamed, they blamed the Chinese. So of course that means they have to start attacking Asian people, physically attacking Asian people. But it's, once again, almost all of these things were leftists that were getting angry and uncontrollable and decided we're going to go smash a bunch of stuff and break a bunch of stuff and ruin people's livelihoods and murder people. And then you had Kyle Rittenhouse, who had to, shoot two people that were literally trying to kill him and by taking his own gun away from him. But that was a little bit of a different story. And then they got mad at him, saying he was, and they're doing something similar now with what was it? Wait, hold on. I might be thinking of a different case. Well, there's still of course the case with I can never remember the guy's name. The guy that killed the other guy at the track meet, the black student that killed a white student for telling him to get out of the tent because it wasn't his seating spot, and he said something like, touch me and see what happens, and so he was trying to get him out of the tent, and he just reached in his bag and stabbed him in the heart and ran away. And Austin Metcalf, that was the victim. I can't remember, and quite frankly, I really don't care to remember the name of the absolute pussy that did that. But him and his family, they sure raised a hell of a lot of money on GoFundMe for his defense. And of course, shortly thereafter, there's all these new vehicles showing up in their driveway, and he's seen wearing new shoes with brand new clothes, and they move into a new gated neighborhood. And so all the GoFundMe money went to that shit. But sadly for them, I guess they just didn't have enough left for the defense after they were done, so they needed to raise more money with the GoFundMe. And people were just such meanie pants. They didn't decide. They decided, nah, not this time. We gave you so much money last time and you blew it all, but not again. No. Maybe it's because you got Ben Crump there trying to give you legal advice. I wouldn't recommend him, but one thing that all these have in common is division based on racial demographics that are pushed by the left, as opposed to any kind of commonalities where people find common ground and work together to better the situation. That never seems to cross the mind of the party of tolerance. It's a little bizarre, but that's the reason why they're complete liars, frauds, and hypocrites, because every single thing that the left used to talk about as if it was the principle of the party has now been kind of just decided to be a little too inconvenient and denounced. So I talked about in the last episode, I talked about illegals that were granted what's it called, amnesty by President Obama, of course. And unfortunately, Trump did continue some of the project, but it was mostly for the kids, which I can understand why. It is a really difficult and unfortunate situation to deal with when there's children brought over before they were old enough to be able to even make any kind of decision, and their parents irresponsibly decided, I'm going to break into America and take our children. And so that's a tough situation when the kids didn't really do anything wrong, but they're here and you got to do something. So they grant them citizenship, but they don't give them the ability to bring their extended family. They can bring their immediate family, but they can't bring like cousins or their all their grandparents or all their nephews and nieces, like all these people. So they weren't in the least bit thankful for being granted citizenship, because, well, we're not treated the same as American citizens. Yeah, because you didn't come in as an American citizen. You didn't come in like American citizens come in. You came in illegally, and because the country was unsure of what to do, but wanted to do the humanitarian thing, which was make sure that we could provide citizenship to make sure you were able to be taken care of and not forced to go back to a country you'd never been to in your life. We decided it was better for us to take the extra individual who we didn't approve of through the normal channels, but we're going to do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. Well, no, apparently not according to them, because it's just not enough. It's just not enough. And that's once again, when it comes to destiny, when it comes to anybody on the left, it's never enough. It's never enough. There's always more that they need to have done. It's unbelievable. But anyway, so I guess we'll kind of start heading toward where am I going with all this, because we all know this about Destiny. He's a scumbag. He never argues in good faith. He's got some pretty paper thin arguments. I mean, like I said, this whole time this is about turning down the temperature, when I've heard, what are the things said about ice again? I'm not going to go through them all because it takes too long, but like basically every pejorative you can use, every insult you can use, everything considered negative that's in the English language, ice has been called that. And let's not forget that I'm just going to go ahead and say it once again, because if leftists are going to do it, I'm going to repeat it because I think it's disgusting and it should have the same impact. When you look at a guy who's with ICE and he's a black guy, and that surprises you, that a black guy would want to work for an agency defending his country from invasion by hostile immigrants that may be there to murder other citizens, your first reaction is to call that guy a house nigger? Really? That's your idea? Because like the amount of times people on the left, even if they're white, even if they're, it doesn't matter. They feel totally 100% justified and not in any fear of retaliation to say he's a porch monkey. He's an Uncle Tom. Like, they will say the nastiest, most evil fucking shit about black people who are conservative or who work for law enforcement or for ICE or immigration, anything. That's always the people that are treated like, honestly, I think the worst. Like, they are treated almost, well, they're treated about as bad as Trump. That's the thing. They're treated about just as disgusting as Donald Trump himself. Because simply for having the nerve of being conservative and black. It's sick. It's absolutely disgusting, but it goes back to, once again, Joe Biden's infamous quote. He used it with Charlemagne the Fraud. If you have trouble deciding whether or not you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. Well, he also talked about Corn Pop, and Corn Pop was a bad dude. He ran with some bad boys, and that was, oh man. So, thinking about some of these stories, like especially Corn Pop, I miss the Biden stories. I wish, I don't want him anywhere near office, but I wish we could hear the wisdom of Biden still. Like The kids at the pool used to love rubbing down on my leg and seeing the hair. What the fuck are you talking about? Anyway, so aside from the creepy old man, let me go back. So what am I getting at with all of this? Well, recently some videos have come to light, and I'm definitely not the first one to cover this, but this is why I'm saying I'm still going over it, because I don't want this to disappear. I don't want this to go away. I want people to know about this as much as possible, because this like when as this is going on, remember the argument. Remember the argument about conservatives turning up the temperature, turning up the rhetoric, and refusing to apologize. Which, by the way, why is Donald Trump someone who should be apologizing for Charlie Kirk being murdered? Because he turned the rhetoric up and refuses to apologize and say that we need to turn the rhetoric back down. How about you do that? How about Hakeem Jeffries? How about Chuck Schumer? How about anybody? How about Nancy Pelosi? Oh, that's right, because Paul Pelosi got attacked by a guy with a hammer. Just so happens that the guy was a radical leftist who lived in a trailer that had, BLM stickers and a pot flag, and then there was another gay pride flag on the house that his freaking trailer was sitting in front of. But yeah, I'm sure that guy's a hardcore MAGA supporter. Lives in San Francisco, got all that outside his home, but yeah, he was definitely a Trump supporter, without a doubt. But that's the problem. Destiny has no problem. Just like when they talked about, I finally remember the name, the Hortmans. The Hortmans were attacked and murdered by a guy on the left who was a radical socialist and didn't think that they went far enough. That was who killed the Hortmans. Sorry for all your wet dreams out there of it being a conservative, but it wasn't. Just like, and so many other cases where the left just is like, oh yeah, this is definitely something we can use. And it goes back once again to the situation with Alex Preddy and Renee Good. I have no hesitation anymore saying this, and I hope people really understand this. The left were dying for a situation when that was going to happen. They wanted that to happen since day one, when ICE was activated to start arresting illegal immigrants and deporting them out of the country. They knew exactly what they needed to get public opinion on their side, to get the population at large to demonize the administration and ICE in particular, and that was their wedge to get their foot in the door. And when that happened, it was even worse because it happened twice very quickly in succession. And of course, when you look at both instances themselves, when you hyper focus on them, you realize, oh yeah, that's right. One of them was trying to run over an ICE agent. The other one had been attacking ICE all week, kicking out their tail light, flipping them off, spitting on them, and then when they attempted to arrest him, he managed to wiggle himself away and run off like the little bitch that he was. I even heard somebody today who was far more sympathetic to the left, not so much recently, but was far more sympathetic for a time, who knew who this guy was and said, yeah, this guy should have been arrested like a week before he was shot. If he was arrested, he would still be alive today. But because they weren't, because the cops in the area were prohibited from doing their job, and because ICE couldn't be, arresting citizens and going after illegal immigrants at the same time, as well as, trying to defend other ICE agents from people trying to do them harm, because that couldn't all happen at once. There was no way in hell they were going to be able to effectively defend themselves from a violent mob that was trying to throw them out. And what I find amazing, I'm not going to talk about this right now. This has to be for another episode. I'm going to end up taking way too long. But I find it amazing because I heard for so long. But what really needs to happen is Kristi Noem needs to be taken off of Homeland Security. She needs to be taken off from the head of that department. Well, she was. And what else is happening? What else was it? Jeez. Let me think here. Oh, yeah, that's right. They left the state of Minnesota. They left the state. Greg Bavino got taken off of the job he was on. Kristi Noem got taken off her job. They left Minnesota. And you're still bitching and complaining about every single thing ICE does. So really what you're saying is there is nothing that ICE could do. You just want them to stop deporting illegals, period, because you're in support of illegal immigration. We all know it. It's obvious as hell, and the stupid excuses and reasons you try to give for why you're so upset now are just so pathetic that, I mean, they're paper thin as hell, and anybody that thinks for 2 seconds about it can recognize that, oh yeah, okay, we got rid of Kristi Noem, we're no longer in Minnesota, we're not, Greg Bovino's not doing operations anymore. What's the problem now? They're arresting 5-year-old kids. Oh, you mean the kid who ICE put into their van and didn't arrest, put them in their care because his father took off running like a fucking pathetic little bitch because he couldn't face the fact that immigration was after him because he was in the country illegally. So he abandoned his son, who was like 5 years old, in the snow. And his mother, who lived in the house there, decided, no, I don't want him. I don't want him. I don't want him. So I guess ICE was supposed to leave the kid in the snow to freeze to death? Is that what the suggestion is? Because I don't really see any other, and you could bet your ass that if that had happened, the father would have been playing, Dad of the Year on BS Now or CNN and running around talking about how, ICE abandoned my son in freezing cold. And it's like, and they would not have focused at all on how he ran away like a fucking little asshole when he freaking recognized that ICE was looking for him. So every single argument is just more bullshit. And like I said, they won't condemn the violence. They won't condemn anything. But they can't stop talking about Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Oh, that's just too far for them. That's way too far. That's too much. They don't want to talk about Jocelyn Nungary. They don't want to talk about, what's her name? Rachel Marin. They don't want to talk about Laken Riley. They don't want to talk about, anybody that's been one of the many, they definitely don't want to talk about Irina Zaruska. They don't want to talk about anybody who is a victim of violent crime by somebody they let out on one of their ridiculous no cash bail policies, or somebody who's in the country illegally. They definitely don't want to talk about that. Now, if it's someone who's killed who's on the right, or someone who's killed that is somebody that they can galvanize for their own purposes and use to basically push the agenda of open borders and amnesty for everyone and all that kind, well, then of course they're going to keep spotlighting it. And I'm not trying to be cruel about this. That's just the reality. Like I said, when you saw that first story about Renee Good getting killed, and how fast they were to deny that, she wasn't trying to hit him. She definitely wasn't trying to hit him. Of course she wasn't trying to hit him. She was speeding off in his direction, but she wasn't trying to hit him. No, of course not. Like the speed of the coordination, once again, when everybody's on the same message and everybody's got the same opinion, and it's too blatant, it's too obvious. And if you think for a second that they weren't just waiting with they probably had the fucking scripts already written out and ready to be distributed to every freaking, every single national news organization that they could get it out to, which, they're not really news organizations, they're just hit piece places. But anyway, so yeah, I'm sorry. I was going why are we talking about this now? Well, let me just make sure I find the video, because I don't want to have this be something I talk about and then I can't pull it up immediately, because this is really this is at the heart of it, everything that made me want to do this episode specifically about this, because I didn't think that anything Destiny said anymore would surprise me or make me feel like uncomfortable or something. I mean, the guy is like literally a hypocrite in every single walk of life you can imagine. He's got no he's got no moral compass. He's got no values. He's got no well, by values I mean something that actually should be valued. He's got no sense of right and wrong. He's got no sympathy whatsoever. He's got no sense of justice. He's a very as much as I'm sure he would deny it. He's very self-conscious. He's a short little fucking cowardly guy who has a chip on his shoulder because people have made fun of his dumbass all his life, and he gets back at him by doing his little super fast on super high speed, sounding like you did, like fucking like about a whole fat bag of meth, the whole damn thing in one snort before you went on the air. But anyway, let me make sure I can find this. So, oh yeah. So this was the first part. I don't know if you guys saw this. Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. You don't need to. But there was a debate he had with Konstantin Kisin. Now, Konstantin, if you are unfamiliar, he comes from the UK. He's a really intelligent guy. He does a podcast with another guy. I can't remember his last name. His first name is Francis, and I can't remember. But I'm sure you probably heard of the show, Trigonometry. But this wasn't an episode of Trigonometry. This was just a debate between Constantine and Destiny. And despite the fact that Constantine is pretty damn, he's a really moderate kind of guy. He's really an independent, really centrist, very much a guy who's not left, not right, but really rational in his way of thinking. He definitely doesn't, act like partisan or have any kind of real strong partisan affiliation. He basically praises or attacks the other side fairly equally, except in like one or two areas, and it really mostly revolves around both Marxism and then trans ideology. Those are the two subjects where he really kind of is very vocally against the left on these sorts of things. But apparently, one of Destiny's fans was in the crowd during this debate, and he did this video talking about what he was thinking during this debate, and somehow he thought this was a good idea to put out after that. So this is just one of Destiny's fans, and in just a second we'll get to just more than just one. But this is just one. You can get the kind of idea of what we're talking about here with fans who follow this guy. But yeah, here we go. Oh, there we go.
I was like fucking locked onto his eyes, and he kept like glancing down at me and then like breaking eye contact because I fucking hate the guy. I was just like, I wanted to kill him, and I think he got distracted by that and didn't pay attention to a single thing.
What are
he said? Do you know what I should have done? Stanley Blade just fucking sprinted up onto the stage, slash Constantine in the fucking jugular.
Let's go over that again.
Sorted.
What does he want?
Prison
Hold on.
onto his eye.
I'm in the way of this fucking loser. But let's do a quick replay of that because call me crazy. I think this is a little significant. So yeah, let's play that back one more time. Now, what is it he's suggesting here? Because he's talking about Constantine here. What does he want to do? Well, let's make sure we know first before we go crazy, because maybe we're wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but I'm not. So here we go.
And he kept like glancing down at me and then like breaking eye contact because I fucking hate the guy. I was just like, I wanted to kill him, and I think he got distracted by that and didn't pay attention to a single thing.
What are
he said? Do you know what I should have done? Stanley Blade just fucking sprinted up onto the stage, slash Constantine in the fucking jugular. Done. Sorted. Prison forever on the one hand, and then
so that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to take a box cutter and run up to on stage and slash Constantine and kill him. Wanted to stab him in the neck and kill him. This is what Destiny's fans talking about. Seems like a real, real grounded and I guess dedicated bunch of people, but dedicated on what? I that may be a little bit of a problem, but let's hear more from this psycho, because if you want to get an idea of the Destiny fan, here's one right here. So,
And then I should have gone. Then I should have gone woke jihad. Woke jihad. I should. Oh, no, I should have gone for the white race or something. I don't know. No, I feel like my genuine psychopath thought that I've learned from the Charlie Kirk killing is if you are going to assassinate a political target, then try to reduce the gore as much as possible so people can't sympathize with the bastard who's getting it. So you'd have to go up with like a cape and like cover him in a cape and do it cleanly under there, like an abattoir. It's all like dog whistling. We need to secure a future for the white people.
so let's get this straight. Hates Constantine, thinks his views are bad, and wants to kill him so much that he's going to go to a debate where he's watching him, stare at him the whole time, and fantasize about killing him by stabbing him in the neck with a box cutter. He learned from Charlie Kirk's assassination that if you make it too graphic, then people will turn against you, so he'll just wear a big hoodie or a cape or something that he can cover everything up with it. And then scream woke jihad or something. And what was the last stupid thing? I don't remember. I think that's quite enough, because that's what we're talking about here. So make no mistake. And who is turning up the temperature again? I think I forgot. Who was it? Because this guy doesn't sound like he call me crazy, but this doesn't sound like a Trump supporter to me. In fact, call me crazy, but I think this guy probably hates Trump's guts and probably hates everything he does. He probably doesn't even know what he does, but he probably still hates it anyway. So yeah, that's the based audience that that Destiny's got, but that's not it, because his fan base is fairly large. Mind you, I will give credit where it's due. I hate even having to do it, but I will, because I think it's important to know that there was a time where Destiny was one of the more dedicated debaters on live streams, and he would walk into the lion's den. He would go into a room with 3 or 4 conservative people that were dedicated conservatives, and he knew when he went in he was going to get his lashings, and he was going to get his taunting and his ridicule, but he was going to go in anyway, and he was going to stick up for his side, and he was going to represent him. And at that point in time, it was pretty unheard of, and it was pretty dedicated of him to be able to take it to a level where, even though I'm going into a place where I'm outnumbered and it'd be very hard to represent my point of view, I'm gonna do it anyway. But his social life wasn't going so great, and it still hasn't been in recent years, and I won't go into that in this video. I will in other ones, most likely, because all I'll say is it's beyond tumultuous, and we're talking pretty sick levels, considering the fact that he's on the left, and I'm sure he's been, I don't know for a fact if he was somebody who supported this, but if he in any way, let's just say if he supported Me Too in any way, oh boy, he has some fucking explaining to do. But because I guarantee there's probably quite a few complaints that would be raised. But it isn't limited to only only being pretty choosy with the ideologies. In fact, there's at least one that I can think of off the top of my head, very prominent, right wing, supposedly, who was apparently attracted to this sicko, and somehow was around long enough to give him a good shagging, and then went on to went on to, continue to be put on the personification of someone who was rational and reasonable on the right and believed this and that, and meanwhile is shagging this guy who is literally literally will support attacks on the president for the left wing murdering their political opponents. Now, even if, whether or not she approved of that or not, whether or not she debated against him, that or not, sorry, if you're jumping into bed with the guy, you can't be too opposed to what he believes in. So, and I remember, this might give it away, might not, I don't know. I remember a video put out by this wench who was actually trying to say that, well, I don't really talk about Christianity because I just don't think I'm the best person to talk about. Yeah, no shit. Anyway, but that's we're just talking about. I don't know. I don't know how anybody would outside of his psychotic community. I don't know how anybody would look at this guy and see anything but an absolute creep, a complete fucking sociopathic monster that has no sympathy for anyone really, and can twist any situation to fit a narrative that he's decided is the correct one. He strawmans arguments all the time. He employs that tactic. I had an ex-girlfriend who did this. Just talks fast all the time in every single debate to mask the fact that he's using non sequiturs and straw man arguments and things that people didn't even say to like make these insinuations that are completely unfounded, have nothing to do with the discussion, deviate from the topic. Yeah, anything to get the upper hand, because he just wants to, it doesn't matter if anything's solved or not, as long as he has a position where he feels like he is in control and can steer the debate where he wants. It doesn't really matter to him, because he can then steer it in a way where it looks like he's come out in a way that's got the upper hand. When in actuality, it could have veered off topic like 8 times and be ending on something totally different. But a lot of the people that watch him are so delusional and stupid and on the same level of hatred towards the right that he is, that they really don't care. A win's a win, and we'll take the win, even though it's not really a win because it's not on the subject that we're even talking about. It's like, but I think I played that clip of Destiny getting that point against Constantine, where he was trying to say that DEI doesn't mean that there's a bunch of unqualified people flying planes, and then Constantine replied about how the military in Britain were specifically avoiding male pilots because they wanted to meet quotas for particularly minorities and female pilots. And he was trying to say, well, I'll look into it, and I'm sure it probably won't have any validity, but maybe it will, and I'll look into it. And Constantine's like, here, would you read my phone real quick? And it just it's just some news article that basically the title is basically like white whistleblower says that military declined to consider him for a position in Air Force due to being white, and is like it was just like a total refutation of everything he'd just been harping on, not just the part about that not being true, but everything conservatives use arguments is just all false. There's no critical race theory, there's no DEI practice, there's no illegal immigrants, they're all asylum seekers. It's like, yeah, okay, sure. You know what asylum is? You know how you seek asylum? Do you know the requirements for asylum? I doubt it. And if you do, you lie about that because I know exactly what they are, and they don't involve running around anywhere you want in the U.S. until they decide you are legitimately qualified as an asylum seeker and granted permission to stay in the country. And then, of course, there's TP. What is it? TPS, temporary protective status, and they seem to have forgot the T on that one too, where it's temporary protective status, not permanent protected status. So, but if it's a rule that has anything to do with something else, that's exactly why the Save America Act, which is one of the things that I still am very, very, very disappointed that John Thune seems like he's not going to hear any of it with what Mike Lee has suggested with the talking filibuster. I think that that's a very cowardly move to make. I think it's really short-sighted, and I do agree completely wholeheartedly with the people who are of the mindset that if Congress and the White House and Democrats take power back of the government, there's going to be the filibuster is going to be revoked anyway. They're going to destroy it because they tried to do that, and like I said before, it was just Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema that managed to basically prevent that from happening, which was the only thing that really made sure that nobody was going to. The two people saved it last time. You think there'll be two people that save it this time? I mean, maybe you have John Fetterman, but it depends on what kind of margin the Democrats have this time, because if everyone's predictions, I'm a little bit more optimistic, because I don't think that, from everything I hear about the polling right now, people are not happy with the right. I'm very disappointed with the right. I think they've been completely and utterly disappointing in the face of a Trump presidency, where they have every possibility to have real serious change done that would give them way more of a strong fighting chance and a strong moral position to be able to defend the things they're arguing for. And instead, they've been just lazy as hell and not really willing to do. Like John Kennedy talks about this. I don't like his current idea, but I do like the idea how he's constantly said we have two more I was about to say recreation. What is it called? Reconciliation bills. They only used one. It was for the big, beautiful bill, but the session for the Republican majority, they have two more reconciliation opportunities, and it's fast approaching, the midterms, and so they really should. They really, really should use them before, even if they win, it would be far better. Not only because it solidifies you get them done, but also because it gets them done faster. And almost all of Trump's plans are more or less long-term plans that are going to take some time from implementation to the effects being felt by the rest of the country, in order for them to really get the actually feel the success of the policies, as opposed to hearing them just explained when they might not even really get the full picture of what it is attempting to be implemented. But for some reason, they're not trying that. They're not trying a standing filibuster. They're not trying anything. They're about to go for a plan, which I really don't like, where they're going to allow the Democrats to present these bills where they're going to individually fund TSA. They're going to fund, things like the Secret Service and the FEMA and Coast Guard and all these agencies that are under the Department of Homeland Security, and they're just going to hold for immigration altogether, not just ICE, but also CBP. I would guess would fall under the same thing. And the reason I don't like it is because every single government agency that we know of that's like a three-letter agency that we've heard of, they have several and multiple, smaller little what do you call it? Agencies that are under them, that are under their purview. They're just the department that controls these agencies. If we watch if we watch the Senate decide in this case that they're gonna take this department, in this case Homeland Security, and pick and choose, tear it apart and pick and choose which parts they're going to fund and which parts they aren't. Usually what happens is you fund the department, and the person who's the head of the department decides they're going to allocate the money to this group, that group. And since essentially ICE and Border Patrol have been funded already by the big beautiful bill, that's why they've been still operating during this time period. And so I would guess that, when Mark Wayne Mullen is now going to be in control of, which, by the way, I loved certain parts of his confirmation hearing, especially when James Langford came out, was like, yeah, I think we're making a big deal out of this whole classified thing you guys are just harping on and on about, which, by the way, Rand Paul was not, I don't know what his problem was. I know that him and Mark Wayne don't seem to get along and haven't gotten along for a long time, but I mean, I just, he's one of the people, he's voted against the big beautiful bill. He's voted against almost everything that has to do with like some of Trump's more bold initiatives that have been for deportations or like anything. And it's so strange to me because, well, it's not. He's a very strongly ideological person, but yeah, it's just, I think he just lost his mind. And it reminds me of almost all libertarians when they get into a point where you just like, what is with these guys? Like, what do they actually believe in? It's like, and they'll explain it, but I'm like, okay, then how is it that you make decisions like we're not going to make sure that we're funding Homeland Security so we can get rid of the people mooching off of our our taxpayers and the benefits that they're illegally receiving, and the education system they're illegally taking advantage of, and the hospitals and healthcare they're illegally getting insurance for, and all these places. And of course, the Democrats' answer is they're not eligible for yeah, they're not, but they're getting it anyway. Haven't you heard the governor in this wonderful state say that we're going to provide driver's licenses and health care and everything for everyone? And of course, that means voting too, because I mean, he would never admit this. I don't think. Maybe he would. He's insane enough to. But especially in San Francisco, they really were happy with themselves when they passed this idea that you didn't have to be a citizen to vote in local school board elections. Like, that was where that was going to stop. You got someone on the voter rolls for local elections. Well, what are the chances they're not going to be on the voter rolls for national elections? Do you think there's some sort of system in place in this fucking absolute catastrophe of a state that has some sort of organized filing system or electronic database of any kind that separates people that are legal voters, that are not legal voters, and that are legal voters only for local elections, but not for... You're fucking out of your mind if you think that's the situation. Anyway, so let's get back to... I'm sorry, I went off topic. So there's a lot of... Man, I haven't talked to you guys in so long. There's been a lot going on. But where are we going? Well, let me pull this up, and we'll finally get to what is really at the heart of all this. There was a... I don't know how this was captured on video. I don't know. I mean, obviously Destiny had to have known that this was being filmed. I don't know if this was only supposed to go out to people that were viewers and subscribers of some kind or what, but I know he's mostly on Twitch, so if you're not somebody that's actually subscribed, you wouldn't really be able to watch some of this content. But I don't know. I have no idea. But there's one of his mods seems to be bringing up an issue that he thinks is becoming a real problem, becoming a serious problem, and he wants to bring it to Destiny's attention, but he brings it up in a way where he's trying to be as delicate as possible. You can tell he's really trying to not make this sound like he's in Destiny's words, cucked. He just loves that word because basically he got so cucked that he has to always call everybody. It's just projection. But anyway, the point is that the guy is trying his damnedest to get this message across without having him just dismiss it as if it's not a big deal. But he clearly thinks, oh, it is a big deal. It's actually a very big deal. This is actually becoming a real problem. And so I can't remember exactly what I named it. So it's just somewhere. Oh, then I wanted to get. I'm gonna have to say that for the next episode. There was something I was really wanting to get to, but this is definitely gonna take too long. There's a ride along that Steven Crowder took with ICE, and there's a handful of people they were going after that day. Some people behind some pretty sick crimes, and I'll wait till the next episode. But it's very fascinating because of the way they get painted and the kind of brush that they try to use to suggest that they're not even ISIS is even going after serious criminals, and you see the people in this video and you're like, oh my god, what? So it kind of debunks that whole perspective that they're not going after serious criminals. They're going after just innocent, poor, hard-working families that are trying to do the right thing. It's like, yeah, this really sounds like that, all right. Hmm. Hmm. Here it is. Yep, I found it. Okay, so this is about 8 minutes long. It's a kind of longer clip, but I'm going to try to play it in its entirety from start to finish. And we'll probably end up ending on this because it's getting late. But so this is, like I said, there's a couple people in the discussion, but this is mainly a conversation with Destiny and his, I think it's his top mod. If it's not, it's one of his more highly, like really long-term mods. And he wants to bring this subject up because he's really concerned about this, and just listen to how this guy responds to this information, because it kind of more or less tells you everything you need to know. So here we go, the main event.
And I know like your argument is like, well, people like Trump and
Yeah,
things like that,
Rob
like
Noor.
they can say this stuff openly, and like I completely understand that argument.
Right, that's the only argument. It's the only argument Destiny has. Trump says mean things. Trump said mean things, therefore I have to say this stuff. It's constantly his appeal.
Rob knows
My
it
argument
so
is that people
perfectly.
aren't taking this serious, and if they are taking it serious and they are meaning the words that they're saying and they're not joking, that is the problem.
Okay. Everyone's joking though.
But everybody's not.
Look, the comments. This guy's a Fed. Worst Reddit mod ever. By the way, notice on that other stream that occurred after this, the first one I started playing, Destiny says at one point, everybody getting mad at Hobbit. Yes, his community's mad because the head mod of that community came out and was like, things are getting fucking crazy. The violence, the calls for violence around here aren't jokes anymore. It's getting fucking scary.
So it is actually like he's discussing this. Meanwhile, as he's trying to bring this to his attention, the people in the chat are talking shit and calling him a Fed and calling him, all these names. Cuck is probably their favorite because, once again, projection. I'm sure all these people, I would doubt many of them even been laid, but And we're not talking about, Nick Fuentes and the whole, well, we're Christian. Nah, we're talking about a bunch of, douchebags who have no, obviously they have no real moral principles on it of any kind. I mean, they can sit in a chat with this fucking piece of shit and and sit there and justify violence against the right by any means that you possibly can, because Trump won't turn down the temperature. So, there's endless justification, obviously, for doing whatever you want, because he just won't turn down the temperature. You could just turn on the AC, bro. That's all you need to do. Fuck off. Anyway, so by the way, if you don't know Rob, he's been doing like commentary and reaction videos and debates for a long time, and he does a lot of work with Andrew Wilson. I really, really like his commentary, though, and I'm watching a lot of his stuff lately. I don't know how he does it, but he was the one that did the video with. We'll talk about this guy eventually, but Brian Shapiro. He's got this thing going. Brian is in love with him or something. Actually, no. He just constantly tries to just like find ways to take jabs at Rob all the time. He hates him, but in this particular instance, this is just something with some humor to take the focus away from the nonstop freaking insanity coming from this motherfucker. But he basically decides, you know what? I want to see how long this guy can go. I'm just going to sit back and let him talk. I swear. Brian Shapiro goes on for like almost 18 minutes straight with Rob doing nothing but staying silent, nodding his head, not making any noise, just like listening intently. This guy's got the patience of a saint. I have no idea how you can do that and not just explode, because he just kept repeating the same things over and over, giving himself this fucking jerking himself off just constantly, like, look at what I can do. I am so accomplished. I have everything. I host a radio show. I was just on and on, and Rob's not saying a word, and just constant insults, self-gratification, just this egocentric bullshit non-stop for almost 18 straight fucking minutes. Literally almost 18 minutes straight. And then finally, when he's done, Rob tries to get back onto the subject that they were on before he started going on that tirade. And he acts like Rob's the one who's being freaking weird. It's like, no, I think it's a little bit more weird that you're so self-conscious and so fucking unsure of yourself, and so fucking at the same time trying to assign all of this undeserved fucking clout to your ridiculous positions, that you have to keep repeating the same points for 18 straight fucking minutes just to sound like you actually are someone who has opinions worth listening to. But I guess that's for his audience to decide, who, by the way, can't even stand Warren Smith, who's too racist for them. Think about that one. Warren Smith, the former teacher of a sort of last chance high school, who helped the students by getting them introduced to the world of content creation and video and audio work and things like that. Warren Smith, just too big of a racist bigot piece of shit for them. So they wasted no time calling in and telling him, I don't want to hear that guy on your show anymore. He's a fucking idiot. And why is that? Because Warren said that if he was walking down the street, he saw somebody ahead of him that had their pants sagging below their ass and were wearing typical thug-style attire, he would cross the street. And Brian just couldn't help but think that that's a racist. Meanwhile, he mentioned nothing about race. He mentioned nothing about the person, what they look like they believed in, or what they actually believed in, or who they were physically, anything like that. He just said if someone was dressed this way, I would cross the street because I would want to be cautious. I don't know how that's racist, unless you yourself assume that that's only black people, and only black people do that, and so you're a racist because that. Sorry, that makes you more racist than him because you're assuming that it's only black people who could possibly look like they're a dangerous thug. Yeah, no, it's not. Sorry, it's just unbelievable. But anyway, that's the idiot that um, was arguing against Robin in one of the debates. I was really finding hilarious. But anyway, sorry, I just wanted to bring that up for the context. So let's get back to this because this is pretty nerve wracking.
And the community's predictable response to that is, shut that guy up. He's a fed. He's a piece of shit.
Not joking, though. My concern is that we are vastly approaching like point of no return in our own rhetoric within the community, and I think that it is being furthered by us not addressing it. So I really want to address like the fact that like in the subreddit, we're going to crack down on not just like explicit calls for violence, but also the jokes, because the jokes have been growing, and it's only a matter of time before those jokes become things that get removed in general, and like it's becoming an issue that I'm worried that the subreddit is going to get nuked because people are not taking it seriously, and I know that it's like a cuck position to be in, but
He has to throw that out there, of course.
you know, we get treated in this community a lot different than what other communities get treated.
Now,
What?
partially true. That is actually true.
Yeah.
For example, Destiny got banned from Twitch for saying shit that you could have seen the old trans community. What was the name of the Keffels? Remember them? Demon Mama, right? That was like, I don't know why they had.
Now, Rob's right. There are creators who get treated better than Destiny. Like Hassan's a good example. Like he was the poster boy for a long time, and now, unfortunately for him and for really anybody on the left that really is devoted, there's just too much attention going to fuck, what's his name? I've been having a hard time remembering names lately for some reason. He's like the I can't believe I can't remember his name. I mean he's massive. He used to be doing like the World of Warcraft streams. Now he does mostly reaction streams to content on political and social stuff. Jeez, I can't remember. I can't believe I can't remember his name. But this has been happening to me a lot. I don't know. My brain's fried. But anyway, he got dethroned. He can't. Oh, I almost had it. I almost had it on my tip of my tongue because Hassan hates him. Hassan really hates him because it's not because of the positions he takes, although they are pretty much opposite of Hassan. Although, and that's the thing too, he's not really hardcore conservative. He's not hardcore anything. He's just reacting like, and that's why I think it's kind of like not at all the same kind of person as Joe Rogan, but the same kind of approach to the content as Joe Rogan. The sort of your everyday sort of average Joe kind of guy who is just doing their normal thing, and they see what's going on in the world, and they're just stunned by how insane the political landscape has been, and how ridiculous some of the arguments are now, and like just the absurdity of the perspectives that get argued seriously by some people in communities online and even on media and seriously highly viewed and highly subscribed to channels and shows and all that stuff because tribalism has gone off the charts and people have kind of self-separated into different camps now, and like if you're part of this one, well then it's nothing but condemnation for the other side. But yeah, it's just I'll figure out his name in just a minute. I swear I'm gonna just look at it, try and look it up. But yeah, it's Hassan was sort of the golden child and got the treatment like where anybody else would have been removed from the platform entirely. He would get like a 3-day ban or something. You know, he would be banned for a few days and then he could come back. And he would throw a giant tantrum over that. But once again, this is the same guy who said his favorite flag was Hezbollah, and that you know, he's just a sick piece of shit too. But anyway, so Destiny doesn't get the same treatment, and that makes him that's one of the many chips on his shoulder, I guess, where he really thinks it's how dare they not give me the praise I deserve. But you know, it's like I said, he was one of the first to start doing it, and he was on the scene for a long time, and a lot of people. The thing was, even if he went in and lost, a lot of people still had respect for him because he would go in and take the beating, and then he'd shake it off and jump into the next one, and people respected him for that at least. But now, with how completely off the rails he's gone, and how he's kind of, he would say he'd be going into these debates, but he treats them like they're such a trivial joke, and that nobody's going to be able to interact with him on the intellectual level. That this isn't even a challenge. This isn't even worth my time. I could mop the floor with this guy. Like he doesn't come out and say it exactly like that, but I mean he definitely sounds and acts like that's his position, because I mean when you are taking people's perspectives and then you straw man them into something they totally didn't say, and at the same time then you try to also, because you can always win the fight with the straw man, and Destiny definitely takes a very very quick advantage of that by immediately saying, you know, what the recommendation he would give is to the straw man he just presented in lieu of the argument of the person that he's arguing against. Like because everybody can be their own straw man, but it's and you know he God forbid you actually steel man someone's perspective to actually try to debunk it, or to actually contend with the actual issue. But that's the problem, is I don't think he really believes much of anything. I think he just kind of uses it as a springboard to get more popular. And same thing with Democrats throughout the country. They have no real moral position. They just want more voters, so they'll open the borders, and it's like it's kind of becoming more and more obvious as time goes on. Anyway, we'll keep going, and I swear I'm gonna freaking figure out who that guy is, because I can't believe I can't remember his name, and you're not gonna believe it either when I probably say it. You maybe even know who I'm talking about already, and you can't freaking.
The ear of people at Twitch, they'd say the most fucked up shit. Vosh would say fucked up shit. Hassan would say fucked up shit. Destiny was the one that got banned. That was bullshit, by the way. Absolute bullshit, right? Destiny, I believe, is demonetized on YouTube as well. But the idea that his community, like on Reddit, that's what they're talking about specifically here, subreddit, that the subreddit's going to get banned. Dude, you can't even fucking defend ICE on Reddit. Those crazy left-wing motherfuckers will ban you for anything on almost any subreddit. So to hear these sour grapes,
not quite as bad as
maybe we ought to cut back on the death threats against this administration, because I'm afraid that we're treated harsher than other communities. The left's always playing. I've said this. This is the thing for the left, right? You could have looked at the left and said, look, all the social media ran by 95% left-wingers, right? 95% controlled by left-wingers. It's so unfair. And the left would say, I agree. It is unfair. It ought to be 100%.
Yeah,
and you're like,
that's
wait,
exactly
what?
They would say.
That's how they legitimately feel. You think Destiny would give a fuck if I tried to have a subreddit and it got banned within 3 days? None of them would give a shit at all. Destiny said, while referencing me specifically, that I'm a conspiracy theorist. And what we ought to do is ban all social media because conspiracy theories spreading disinformation. He wouldn't give a fuck. Meanwhile, I've done videos like, why did Destiny get banned from Twitch? This is bullshit. So it's rich hearing like, hey guys, can we cut down on the violent rhetoric? I'm afraid our community will be treated more harshly. And the weird part is they're partially right. Yes, someone who's more left like Hassan probably will get away with more. They fucking took Parler off the App Store because right-wingers were using it. And they're, January 6th, and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, Blue Sky, go over there right now. Reddit, it's fucking ubiquitous with calls to violence. No one bats an eye.
It's like people don't understand that, and they think like there's a reason why retard is banned in the subreddit, but on platform it's not an auto removal. Like when I talked to the admins about the use of retard in the subreddit, they said, well, retard's not a specifically banned word on the platform. And I said, well, when is it a banned word? And they said, when you use it as a derogatory, what was the exact, something along the lines of like, if you say retard to somebody in a way that's meant to bring them down and be used in a derogatory fashion, that's when it's banned.
Sure.
And I don't know anybody in this community that uses the term retard without it being a derogatory way of like putting somebody down. I'm kind of having a hard time like putting this all together because it's been happening more and more, and it's hard for me to stress how much violent rhetoric is happening just in the subreddit alone. And I'm not talking about the jokes. I'm talking about people just openly talking about needing to hurt people. And like, it's just being said out there about hangings and all these types of things. And like, I understand that a lot of people do it in a way that is meant to like blow off steam, but like, this isn't your journal. You know, like every intrusive thought that comes into your mind isn't something that needs to be shared on platforms.
Oh, that's the problem.
And like, one thing that I
'cause
want to
it does
warn
with the
people
leftists.
about is like Reddit has been cited.
So what he's saying here, he's like, listen, it's getting out of control. Like, he uses the word hanging. Trust me, they're saying worse than that.
Oh, God,
That's
yeah.
just one thing he could say to not violate YouTube's TOS. This is a moderator, Destiny's top moderator from his subreddit, who I've talked to in my show about how violent that fucking subreddit community is. Now, here he is confronting Destiny this week like it's getting out of control. The violence in your own subreddit, in your own Discord, in your own chat's out of control. And that, I do this a lot.
He does
When I
that.
tell
He
people, I'm like,
nods.
listen, I talk about shit that I think could potentially be very, when I say things like they're destroying your country, someone might take that and say, well, then I got to do something. So I try to give people something to do. First off, there's more to life than politics. Start a family, find members in your community, come together, go to church, do things positive that way.
Absolutely.
Second, get involved in your local political level. You know, third, here's what you can do. Try to help people primary. Run for office yourself. I tell people all the time, don't be blackpilled, right? Now, that doesn't mean, I'm not saying it's 100% successful or that everyone's obligated to do that. But I try to give people something to do. The other thing is, then I try to say, even if I can't convince you morally that this is the right thing to do, let me tell you practically what's going to happen. You're going to fail, and you're going to go to prison. So I'm trying to do everything in my possibility, knowing that some people, if you're the type of person that's impressionable enough to say, you know what, maybe I'll go commit some sort of crazy act, you're probably not going to listen to someone saying, but morally, that's not good. So you say, okay, let me tell you why strategically that's a bad idea. So what the moderator is saying here is like, listen, he's kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge to an audience he knows that right now is like, fuck this guy, what a piece of shit. He's saying, hey man, be careful what you say because your shit might be given to the government. Now, let me reiterate that for you, a right-wing audience. There is a small chance that some of these left-wingers could have their shit sent to the government and there could be something actionable. I won't hold my breath. But as a right-winger, when there are left-wingers in office, you're damn right they'll bring the hammer down on you.
And that's really, that's really not only, here's the problem, because not only is that true, for proof, see election year 2024 and Steve Navarro got out of prison. Steve Bannon got out of prison. Trump, case after case after case, in courtroom after courtroom after courtroom, time spent away from the campaign trail, legal actions against him. And this is against the most well-known and former president and some of the most well-known political figures, and the former president who is running again and managed to win all the swing states and the majority vote as a Republican for the first time in I can't even remember how long, and I think since Reagan, and that was what they were able to do to him. They still are sour as hell that Donald Trump let the January 6th the January 6ers out of jail. Oh, he just pardoned all of them and so Okay, so let me get this straight. First of all, no, he didn't let everybody out. The people who he looked at and believed committed some more serious violations, he didn't actually sign a pardon for them. He did, however, pardon the vast majority of them. And why is that? Because the vast majority of them were not violent. They weren't doing anything even remotely violent. They didn't destroy property. They didn't attack anything. They didn't do anything to the Capitol building. They didn't hurt any police officer. They didn't ignore any officer's instructions. They weren't responsible for doing anything much other than wandering around a building. They hate that when you say it, but that's what happened. And that's really all that happened. Yet, and yeah, there were people that fought cops that day. But here's the problem. I say this all the time, and you guys probably have heard this, so I'm sorry to bore you guys, but here's the problem. That's what happened, and at the very worst, you can say that there are some cops that ended up getting some fairly serious injuries that day as they were waiting for the National Guard, who Trump, by the way, authorized to be there days before the event. And the only reason they weren't there sooner was because of Nancy Pelosi, Muriel Bowser, and the Sergeant at Arms in the House and the Senate. It's the only reasons that, like, those four people were in charge of deploying the National Guard after the President of the United States had given his approval, which he did. Now, like I said, there were some people that hurt some police officers that day. That's not good. It's fucked up. It doesn't quite justify, though, first off, that there's only one confirmed person who was killed that day. There's another one who is consistently alleged to be also killed that day, also by the hands of Capitol Police, although it was during a very hectic and extremely chaotic situation where there was low light visibility in a like one of the it was, I think, supposedly in one of the tunnels that was like leading towards the Capitol building, that people used to kind of go, I guess, I don't know exactly, not like one of the really deep underground tunnels, but like one of the tunnels that avoids the road, I think, or something. I've never been to DC. I don't know exactly where it is, but that's apparently where I may be mistaken, but either way, it involves a woman who was was essentially getting trampled and then was beat to death by Capitol riot police that had no idea who she was or anything. Now that's just been alleged. I don't know the facts of that, so I can't vouch for that 100%. I've heard some people say that like that was for sure something that they knew for a fact happened. I don't know if they were there, so I can't even corroborate that, but just saying what's alleged. Even if that was true, that's just another person who was protesting dead. The other one that was for sure, obviously, is Ashley Babbitt, who was shot coming in through a window that she did not break, and that people had been coming in through before and after she came in, and was the only one shot by an officer who was known to be completely and totally unprofessional and very irresponsible with his firearm. For example, at one point, he left it in the bathroom, unattended, in the Capitol building, with tourists wandering around all over the place. He left his firearm in the bathroom with nobody in there to obviously keep watch over it. So this is a guy with a history of very bad performance, irresponsibility with his firearm, and he shot a woman and veteran of the United States military through the neck. When her mother was protesting at one point, they arrested her mother and put her in jail. Now, they were trying to suggest everybody that was in prison was taking part in an insurrection, and they had attacked the Capitol building. They destroyed property. They had, done. Not even Jacob Chansley, the face of all the freaking scary images of Mr. QAnon shaman. QAnon, God, that's stupid. Not even he did anything violent. He walked into the Senate chamber, said a prayer, and blessed the people and blessed the Capitol police officers for making sure they were keeping everyone safe that day. And his reward was a prison sentence. He was lucky, though. He was released before he needed a presidential pardon. Some people needed presidential pardons because they're being kept there for 2, 3, 4, 5 years with serious injuries that have been inflicted by the guards, by people watching the prison, by people affiliated with the government. They were not given proper access to a public defender. Their public defenders, in many cases, weren't giving them an adequate defense. They weren't looking after their best interest. They weren't listening to their appeals for not appeals. Their calls to introduce certain things into evidence. Their actual testimony for what happened in their particular situation. We also know a journalist. God forbid you do anything to hinder a journalist. That's destroying democracy. You had a guy who was leaned up against a wall for over half the time he was in the building, scrolling through his camera, was also arrested for being a journalist in the Capitol building. God knows that's the top of the peak for the biggest infraction you can possibly make against our freedom in the United States is attacking journalism and journalistic integrity. And how dare you say a phrase like fake news? It's okay if you arrest a guy who did nothing in the Capitol building, though, and just was there documenting what happened. And like Don Lemon was supposedly doing in that church that he actually followed people into, and when they asked him to leave, he wouldn't, and that whole thing. That was terrible. But Don, that was terrible and evil. But arresting the journalist who went into the Capitol building, that was justice. Once again, these people had, in most cases, been guilty of trespassing. I've never heard of trespassing carrying something like a 4 or 5 year long prison sentence or more, where people literally in the Democrat side of Congress were calling for these people to get almost life prison sentences or 20-year prison sentences for trespassing in the Capitol building, supposedly the People's House, which is a bunch of horse shit apparently now, because they're not welcome in the People's House anymore. Now, I can understand in that kind of environment you want to make sure the house is clear in a heightened situation like that. But once again, my point goes back to the ultimate point I'm trying to make. BLM riots, Summer of Love, not a word. Chaz and Chop, not a word. The attacks on ICE, not a word. The guy who got his finger bitten off, not a word. The Democrats have not mentioned any of these things, not one. And just today, I'll just play this clip because this is just priceless. This is the last thing I'll play because this basically is kind of like my overarching point to this whole thing, because when you see a guy like this, and I'm sorry, in my opinion, this guy is absolutely, without question, his community is full of insane, dangerous radicals. And because he has no responsibility, and even, I guess, on camera, I don't know how he really feels, denies his own, denies his own ability to potentially sway the opinions or get people to believe certain things he says by authority of his position alone. And on top of that, he's just an overall absolute scumbag without any kind of conscience or any kind of human empathy whatsoever. He has nothing, not even close to that. But when we're talking about things that are going on, once again, amnesty for all the illegal people here. They're going after families, and it's like, and once again, he pushes all the similar talking points that are complete total horseshit, like Like, there's no evidence that people here illegally are committing more crimes. There's no evidence that people is that blah, 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 blah. Well, there is. You're just not looking, and you only will look. Like, yeah, it's like one of those things where when you find people in the center, or you even find people on the right, they usually like to look at publications or news sources that lean in the opposite direction. I have to do this because as much as it drives me crazy, I have to hear what the opposite side's saying sometimes. And when I hear it, sometimes it's hard to even reconcile that we're living on the same planet because I don't know what they're describing. I don't know what universe they're getting this from. But apparently they somehow see this and see whatever it is they're describing. It just it's not even anything that even can be confused for that, in my opinion. But despite that absolute break from reality that's very commonplace, the other thing is, like I said, the fact that they'll constantly call all this stuff out on the right, and they refuse to acknowledge when it's on their own. Like, once again, I harp on this, David Dorn. And just another example. And especially when we're talking about this right now, the amount of citizens killed by illegals, and they'll use the talking point every single time, which is probably the most disgusting argument you can make. It's not even that many people, because here's the problem. It shouldn't be anyone, because these people shouldn't be even in the fucking country. Yet they are, and it's pushed and pushed and pushed to make sure that they're there. And anyone that tries to get rid of them is called a fascist and a racist and a dictator and like, Destiny's still repeating the line, Donald Trump said he'd be dictator on day one. Yeah, it's called a joke. I guess, I'm not even saying it was funny, but it was in response to this call that he was going to be a dictator as soon as he got in the White House. And his response was, I'll be a dictator just on day one. I'll close the border and drill, baby, drill. And then I won't be a dictator anymore. That was literally how he said he was going to be a dictator. The first day he was going to call for those two things, and then he wasn't going to be a dictator anymore. So please explain to me how that was so threatening. Because it doesn't seem to me like either one of those things even actually happened according to plan. And even if they did, how is that something you're so concerned about? Is it because of climate change? Because, Bill Gates has recently come out and said, that, I think it's real, but probably not as severe as we originally believed. Yeah, no shit. But anyway, the last day, where was that? Where was that clip for? Because this is actually pretty recent. Yeah, here it is. So this is pretty timely. This is just a quick video, and it's on the latest shooting that just happened the other day in Chicago. And here's the responses of the mayor, the governor, some other people involved, and then somebody who actually gives a shit about people that are getting murdered by illegals at the end. So let's just check this out real quick, because this is ultimately what is being missed by anybody on Destiny's side, and just about everybody who supports open borders and everybody who condemns the evil administration for ICE is totally out of control. Oh, and by the way, Hakeem Jeffries has a little cameo too that's pretty interesting. So here we go. This is really short, but I just want to play this real quick.
The suspect, 25-year-old Venezuelan illegal immigrant Jose Medina, was supposed to be in court yesterday, but his hearing was postponed because he's being treated for tuberculosis. He faces a number of charges, including first-degree murder. Gorman's mom promising, quote, "We are going to get justice for Sheridan. We have a voice, and it is going to be heard.
Gorman, that's her name.
We are beyond shattered." It is a preventable tragedy.
An illegal immigrant has been charged with murdering a college student in Chicago last week. Do House Democrats believe if he's convicted, he's someone who should be deported?
I'll look into the case.
Going to continue to pray for those victims.
Will you take this opportunity to apologize to Sheridan's parents for the policies that you promoted that would directly caused her death? That suspect would not be in the city, would not be in the country, but for your policies. Will you take this opportunity to apologize?
Well, again, I believe that we're all grieving the loss of Sheridan and other folks who have lost their lives because of senseless violence. And let's just be very clear, between the Safety Act and the Welcoming City Ordinance, the Welcoming City Ordinance was passed 40 years ago by the first black mayor in the history of Chicago. And the Safety Act was passed under the governor at that time, who was a Republican,
it's not your fault.
Governor Rauner.
Passed the buck.
Thank you for your questions.
So you will not apologize to Sheridan's parents?
Hi, Mayor.
I agree. There have been real failures. Those failures, of course, extend beyond the borders of Illinois. That's national failures, a failure to have comprehensive immigration reform, a failure of the president to follow his own edict to go after the worst of the worst. It is the job of the federal government to go after immigration enforcement.